Hi, Shiur. Hope you had a good week and hope you're continuing to enjoy the learning. I'm just going to give a short summary of the past week's Shiur, a short summary of the ideas that contained on the source sheet, and then give a short introduction as usual to what we're going to do this coming week. Last week was the third week and this is the third Shiur of our learning. And what we discussed is we had talked previously about how the Gemara analyzes a Mishnah, the fact it asks different questions, kind of backwards, sideways and forwards, how it asks different questions within a Mishnah. What we then went to talk about last week is what the Gemara does after it's analysed a Mishnah. We talked really about two parts. The first part, a small thing, and the second part, kind of a major thing, probably the most important thing to understand about learning Gemara. First, we showed how the Gemara will often add new halachos, will just bring in linked halachos that aren't necessarily said in a Mishnah, not based on a Mishnah, but the Gemara will say new halachos. Again, a few examples on the source sheet from Brachot and the bonuses in Chulin, of where the Gemara will bring, in the name of someone who comes after the Mishnah, will bring a new halacha somewhat linked to the content of the Mishnah, and then we'll discuss that. That is one thing the Gemara does. However, the major thing the Gemara does, probably the most important defining feature of what a Gemara is, what makes Gemara unique, and in fact what makes Gemara, once you get used to it, what makes Gemara exciting and dynamic, and what has made Gemara continue to be studied in the centerpiece of Jewish learning for the last 1,500 years, is the second point we said about Gemara, that the Gemara will, beyond questioning a Mishnah, the Gemara will get into a long, often a long, circuitous back and forth about a particular question. So the Gemara, as we said, will ask various different questions on Mishnah, will bring a new halacha and ask a question on that, but there will not just be there's a question, there's an answer, okay, now we move on to the next one, a new question and a new answer. It won't be a simple, as you might see today, just as you might imagine, just again a one-line question, a three-line answer, explains, wonderful. Rather, we have a question, suggested answer. That answer will be challenged, or that answer will say doesn't make sense because of something we said before. That answer is only a partial answer, or someone will say this answer only works according to one person. A whole range of different things that can happen, but then we'll get into a long, circuitous flow. Someone will try to back up that claim, someone will challenge it from somewhere else, someone will bring in a new proof. That new proof then we'll go on to discuss a whole range of different things that the Gemara can do. But the basic, most important thing to understand is that once the Gemara has asked its first series of questions, it will then get into a long discussion. I also gave you two examples of where this discussion can lead us, beyond there being, let's say, even a daf or more than that, it's discussing one topic. Often, beyond the fact it will discuss for a long time one topic, the discussion will lead us to different areas. So, for example, I gave you the example in the bonuses of Bava Kama, that at the beginning of Bava Kama, the discussion about damages in the course of the back and forth leads us into a discussion about Hilchos Shabbos and Hilchos Truma V'Tara. So it's not just we have a long discussion, but the long discussion leads us to other places, as well as the fact that the long discussion can also sometimes lead us into Agadata, moving away from strict halacha, and end up talking about Agada, non-halachic ideas in the Gemara. But then this is the most important part to take out of this Shiur last week. Again, that we talked about the Gemara will add new halachos. That is one thing the Gemara does beyond analysing Mishnah. But then the main thing, and this is the main body and the main kind of core feature and core identifying element of the Gemara, is this back and forth that was known in Gemara terms as shakla v'tarya, back and forth, give and take. Question, answer, counter question, counter answer, backing it up, leading on to another discussion which we challenge and bringing you back to the first discussion. And this often long, not always long, but often long back and forth is what makes the Gemara, as we're going to see, continue to be very dynamic over the generations right up until today. So that was a summary of last week's Shiur. Again, so far we looked at the first week about how a Gemara analyzes the Mishnah. Then this week we looked at what a Gemara does after it's analyzed the Mishnah. What we're now going to do is move on, jumping almost 500 years, to the Rishonim. And we're going to this week analyze the styles of three Rishonim. When we learn Gemara, we normally, and especially when we learn Gemara B'Yid, we don't just learn the Gemara by itself. We also have commentaries that have been written over many hundreds of years. And what we're going to do this coming week is focus on three different Rishonim: Rashi, the Rif, and Tosfos. And what we're going to do is understand what their approach is, how they approach the Gemara, how they can help us learn a sugya, and also potentially what we'll see once we have seen these three is also how these are not just individual people but kind of styles of looking at the Gemara which are taken further by other people. So the Rif is not just someone who has his own individual opinion of how to look at the Gemara, but other Rishonim will later on do similar things to what the Rif did. Tosfos are not just an individual group of people who do something, but later on throughout the generations other people copied what the Tosfos did. So what we're going to do in this coming week is focus on these different styles of looking at the Gemara, and then in the coming weeks we'll also see how those are not just taken up by individual people, again Rashi, the Rif and Tosfos, but these are general styles which we can see applications of again right up until today. I hope you enjoyed the learning. Please be in touch if you have any questions or just generally want to be in touch. I'm looking forward to another week of learning.